Just for clarity, Madam Speaker, I am allowed to remove my mask. I will have more to say on this mask matter later on. Madam Speaker, I believe we can all agree that these 2 years have been extremely trying times for Jamaica, and indeed the world. We give God thanks for sparing our lives and keeping us safe to be able to gather here to discuss the plans for our nation. Madam Speaker, it is not an easy task to manage a parliament. The objective is to control two competing forces: robustness and rowdiness. I believe that the latter, under your leadership, supported by the Most Honourable Holness, our Deputy Speaker, and Ms. Valerie Curtis, our Clerk, we have been more robust and less rowdy. Increasing not only the efficiency, but more so the dignity of our work. In which Parliament conducts its affairs should be reflective of the dignity of our work and support its efficiency. It is therefore fitting that in our 60th year, construction will commence on Jamaica's new Houses of Parliament. Madam Speaker, there are some persons that I would like to acknowledge. We express gratitude for their continued cooperation and support for Jamaica through various initiatives. I want to particularly acknowledge the support we have received during the pandemic by way of field hospitals, vaccines, buses, medical units, and other supplies. Jamaica continues to stand as an amplified voice in defense of an equitable multilateral system of engagement and cooperation to resolve in a peaceful manner conflicts among nations. Jamaica has always been consistent in supporting and promoting universal respect and adherence to the principles of international law and respect for the territorial integrity and sovereignty of all nations. The war in the Ukraine, Madam Speaker, demanded no less of us. Madam Speaker, I want to acknowledge the work of our public servants and public officers generally. But you will understand if I single out the Cabinet Secretary, Ambassador Douglas Saunders, who was given over 40 years of high-quality service to the people of Jamaica. Ambassador Saunders will retire from the post this year, and I wish to commend him for his significant contribution to public service across ministries and administrations. I want to also acknowledge one of the most effective, knowledgeable, and hard-working permanent secretaries, Mrs. Audrey Sewell, who anchors both the office and the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Madam Speaker, we are here today because of our constituencies. They elected us. I have been representing the people of West Central St. Andrew for 25 years now. we have achieved much in the constituency. The Jamaica-China Goodwill Infant School, a new community recreation park in Malines Gardens, the new Olympic Gardens state-of-the-art police station, and finally, we are building houses for 15 families who were burnt out in the community of Bellrock. This year, we will begin construction on an intercommunity development plan for the St. Paul's Lane area of Tower Hill. Through the coordination of the National Housing Trust, the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, the National Water Commission, the Housing Agency of Jamaica, and private sector support, we will be regularizing and upgrading the informal settlement of St. Paul's Lane by installing sewage, surveying and reconfiguring lots to create pathways and roadways, and constructing 20 housing units and improving some existing structures. We will also be building a golden age home for the community. Separately, through private and charitable support, we have signed a contract to construct another infant school in the area. The objective, Madam Speaker, for me is to ensure that my constituency has all the infant schools to serve that population. Madam Speaker, as I'm doing this project, it is not just for my constituency. It is also a learning experience. It is about creating a template that are taking on the transformation of entire communities to create a template that can be replicated right across Jamaica. Madam Speaker, another area of the constituency in which I am particularly pleased to have had a hand in its development is the Olympic Way hip strip. Many in this house would have visited. With the support of the Tourism Product Development Company, we improved the streetscape, painted the frontage along the stretch, and we even trained persons involved in street food. We even trained some dancers. Yes. Not that kind of dance. Entertainment district of sorts is one of the key pillars of the economy of the community. Before the pandemic, there was a dance for every day of the week, and there was vibrant nightlife. I'm told there still is. Madam Speaker, I do not need my friend, the Minister of Finance, or any other advocate for the industry to tell me to hurry up and reopen the sector. I appreciate that the entertainment industry could range as high as $1 million per beneficiary. To further support the reopening of the sector, I have directed the Chase Fund to create a special 150 million Jamaican dollars window of support for the entertainment sector. This will be used to help musicians, entertainers, theatre production companies, and events. More details, including criteria for access, will be made available shortly. Madam Speaker, the municipal corporations have agreed that when the entertainment sector is reopened for the first 6 months, permits by 50%. This will be particularly helpful to small promoters and event organizers. Madam Speaker, the government owns and operates some venues that are prime locations for events. Some of these venues are sensitive and some are critical revenue earners for these entities. Though we would like to make all these venues available at reduced rental cost or at no cost at all, this would not be practical or possible. I have, however, directed government entities that rent venues examine the possibility of cutting their rental rates or making the venues rent-free for defined events. I will update the sector on this at a later stage. Madam Speaker, entertainment and culture are big business. However, this is not always understood because of the high level of informality of the sector. Not all promoters, production companies, producers, and creatives, Madam Speaker, are seeking grants. Some have viable products that could be financed on a commercial basis. What they lack is the institutional access to credit. Therefore, the Development Bank of Jamaica will establish a special entertainment restart loan facility totaling 500 million Jamaicans. Under this facility, 250 million will be reserved for micro-enterprises, including vendors supporting the entertainment industry. Micro-enterprises will be able to access loans of up to $750,000 from the DBJ-accredited microfinance institutions for working capital, equipment, and refinancing. An additional 250 will be reserved for small and medium-sized enterprises who will be able to access loans of up to $5 million through participating DBJ microfinance and approved. The DBJ will be working out the details with the microfinance and approved financial institutions with a view to launching the facility in April 2022. Madam Speaker, I wish to restate that this 500 million being allocated for this purpose from the DBJ, it is not a grant. It is a loan on commercial basis. However, it will come with great facilitation to assist businesses who have formerly been informal and who are seeking to restart in the entertainment sector to come in, sit down with a business expert, a financial expert, help you to put the proposal together, carry you through the process, and bring the informal entertainment sector now finally and firmly into the formal sector. Last year, I asked the Ministry of Tourism to make a direct intervention in the supply of trained local entertainment talent for the sector. Madam Speaker, I was opening a hotel, and when I got there, I noticed that much of the talent for the entertainment was imported. So upon seeing that, I, in full flight in a speech, gave direction to the Minister of Tourism that there needs to be an intervention. Because, Madam Speaker, you can't, in this matter, simply blame the hotel. The hotel is a business. They need a product. They need a high-quality product, a diverse product, in order to satisfy their guests. We really have to blame ourselves, having so much talent, but no skill. We have the talent, but it is not skill. So, Madam Speaker, I asked the Minister of Tourism to make a direct intervention in the supply of trained local entertainment talent for the sector. I am happy to announce that the Tourism Enhancement Fund has allocated $50 million to develop, design, and start construction of the Tourism Entertainment Academy on the Montego Bay Convention Center lands. Madam Speaker, I leave the Minister of Tourism to give more details. It is he's there smarting that I am announcing this project. Madam Speaker, we will also be establishing a national modern music grant to ensure that Jamaica continues its proud legacy of influencing global trends in music, arts, and culture. The grant all space from the music artists, performers, sound engineers, composers, you name it. Madam Speaker, we are supporting the reopening of the entertainment sector, not just with talk, but with cash, access to credit, facilitation, and training. It may be a distant memory, but in June 2021 last year, the government acted early in favor of reopening the entertainment sector, just as we were coming out of the second wave, only to strain that scuttled that process. Of course, there was blame all around and accusations of unfairness. I think the lesson for the entire country is that we must be cautious and even now be prepared for the emergence of a new strain or even an existing strain that may cause a new wave of infections. Madam Speaker, over the past several weeks, I've gotten numerous proposals from persons in the industry. And I won't call names, but you wouldn't believe the number of persons who are willing to sit down, put pen to paper, and say, Prime Minister, do this. Here's a proposal as to how you can open up this. Here's what I plan to do for you to open up back the industry. Or when you open up back the industry, this is how I'm going to conduct my business. Because people really want to open. I think they've gotten through that they have to take precautions, they have to integrate protocols in their operations. They make important points as well, such as specific support that is needed to protect the creators and producers of music, such as improvements to intellectual property, trademarks, and copyright legislation. They complain about that part of it, Madam Speaker, bitterly. I will not, Madam Speaker, be able to address these issues and those proposals here in this presentation, but I wish to assure them that I am taking a direct interest in the matter, and along with the Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, the Honourable Olivia Babsy-Grange, we will carefully study these proposals with the aim of partnering with the music and entertainment sectors towards building our Jamaican music and culture. As I close this section, Madam Speaker, we see the emergence of K-pop. We see the emergence of Afrobeats. And Madam Speaker, Jamaican music, reggae music, dancehall music is the root, the foundation. But what do they have over us, Madam Speaker? They take a strategic business approach to for what it is. It is culture, it is art, it's creativity, but it is also an intellectual property that can create wealth and profit and value. But we don't see it in that light. It's almost infradig to think of it that way. But we need to get past that and see business as well that can generate economic growth. So in our 60th year, Madam Speaker, I intend to spend some time on seeing how the government can develop institutions to support our culture and transform our culture into an economic entity. Madam Speaker, on the 10th of March 2020, the first case of the SARS-CoV-2 virus was identified in Jamaica. On March 11, 2020, the WHO declared the public health emergency a pandemic. On March 13, 2020, the government invoked the Disaster Risk Management Act as a principal regulatory tool for managing this crisis. Madam Speaker, the pandemic was the worst health crisis in 100 years and has been by far the worst crisis faced by any administration in this country. It was the greatest test of strength and resilience as a nation, and we have done well. Madam Speaker, we are in the midst of an impressive economic recovery. After a historic decline in 2020, the economy grew by 14.2% in the first quarter of the current financial year, the highest quarterly growth rate in Jamaica's history, and is projected to grow by 7 to 9% for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. Tourism has rebounded to near 70% of pre-pandemic levels. We had over 1.3 million stopover arrivals for January to December 2021. This did not happen by chance. It was a direct result of agility and collaboration between the Ministry of Tourism and the stakeholders in tourism. We're seeing a boom in construction activities with both commercial and residential real estate developments. After a decline in April to June 2020, the construction sector has recorded 6 consecutive quarters of growth. For the last 3 quarters, all sectors of the economy, with the exception of mining, have recorded significant growth. There has been a strong recovery, with unemployment in October 2021 being at a historic low of 7.1%. This is a record. Our debt to GDP ratio, which had increased from 94% in 2020 to 110% in March 2021, is coming back down and is projected to be at 96% at the end of March 2022. We have to give kudos to the Minister of Finance. Of 30 Latin American countries and Caribbean countries in the region, Jamaica ranked second in restoring the debt to GDP ratio to almost pre-COVID levels. Most of our peers have debt to GDP ratios that are still 10, 20, 30 multiples, and some even as high as 60 percentage points than their pre-COVID levels. The list goes on, Madam Speaker. On metric after metric, the data is clear. Jamaica is recovering stronger. We are in the midst of a ticky recovery or a V-shaped recovery. You know when you go to school and you get it right? Ticky. Yes. That's what our graph is showing. In the management of the pandemic and the recovery and our economy, we get a ticky. Our net international reserve stood at $3 billion as at February 28, 2022. This is $500 million than the pre-pandemic level in February 2020. How many countries can say that, Madam Speaker? How many? Especially in this region. We have managed to maintain the highest credit ratings that Jamaica has had in decades through the pandemic, while other countries have suffered downgrades.
Very true.
And I see all kind of things circulating. Talk to me about the fundamentals, not the gimmicks. Our business and consumer confidence indices, while still below pre-pandemic levels, have increased. For the quarter ended December 2021, business confidence is at the highest level since the start of the pandemic, and consumer confidence increased by 24% in the quarter. Madam Speaker, it is important to note that these economic gains were not achieved by prioritizing the economy over health. No. Our approach from the start of the pandemic was to save lives and protect livelihoods. It was never one or the other. Both had to be done together. Despite the fallout in revenues as a result of the pandemic, the government prioritized spending for the COVID-19 health intervention, which has cost $26.4 billion so far. We also prioritized support to the most vulnerable in our society, giving back over $40.6 billion to this point. This is the most any government has ever given back in care support in the history of the world. Madam Speaker, we never forget those we lost in the pandemic. However, as a testament to the management of the pandemic, our number of COVID-19 cases per million of the population is 46% below the world average, excluding India and China, and 69% below countries globally with a population size of 1 to 10 million. Our COVID-19 deaths per million of population is 13% below the world average, excluding India and China, and 23% below countries with a population of 1 to 10 million. We kept Jamaica safe from the worst effects of the virus. Our citizens now know what to do to protect themselves and their families. Madam Speaker, after 2 years of dexterously balancing lives and livelihood with executive powers under the DRMA, the orders have been gazetted effective tomorrow, March 18th, 2022, the order and all the measures therein under the Disaster Risk Management Act will be withdrawn.
Your time for speaking has expired.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the Prime Minister's time be extended sufficiently to allow him to complete his presentation. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is that the Prime Minister's time be extended sufficiently to allow him to complete his presentation. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? Aye. The ayes have it. Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, while we acknowledge that the pandemic is... Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, colleagues. While we acknowledge that the pandemic is not over, it must be mainstream into the general normal management of public health, safety, and public order. It is no longer sustainable to manage the pandemic as a special project by executive order through the Disaster Risk Management Act. However, risks still remain, and continued vigilance is necessary, especially for vulnerable populations. For this reason, some measures will be retained and incorporated into regulations issued under the Public Health Act instead. These are: 1, the requirement for persons who test positive to isolate, the requirement for laboratories to protect the privacy and identity of persons testing for COVID-19, hand washing and sanitizing measures, and 4, mask wearing in enclosed spaces to which the public has access, for example, supermarkets, banks, collectorate of taxes, will be retained until April 15, 2022. However, mask wearing will not be mandated, but will be recommended in establishments that serve food, liquor, or other drink for consumption within the premises. Madam Speaker, regarding travel, we note that it is becoming more difficult and expensive for incoming travelers to obtain COVID-19 tests. We have decided to retain the requirement to obtain a pre-test within 3 days prior to travel until April 15th, 2022, and then we will assess with a view to its removal. Maintaining physical distance will be highly recommended but no longer mandated. The general infection prevention and control protocols applicable to workplaces will also be but not mandated. Curfews will come but we still recommend that you use staying out late only if it is a must, and ensuring your safety and security. The prohibition and entertainment will now be lifted. The prohibition on entertainment, Madam Speaker, will now be lifted as of tomorrow, March 18, 2022. The public is reminded that events are regulated and administered by various entities such as the municipal corporations and the JCF, from whom permits must be sought and licenses paid. The permits granted will include a condition that the number of persons in any venue must be below 70% of the capacity. This condition will be kept until the 15th of April, 2022. Certain restrictions currently applicable to hospitals, nursing homes, infirmaries, and correctional facilities will become matters for policy at the level of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, and the Ministry of National Security as applicable. Madam Speaker, I re-emphasize, we are not declaring an end to the pandemic. There are still outbreaks happening all over the world. We are maintaining the management of the disease under our existing public health laws. Madam Speaker, we are building our Jamaica, sowing seeds for peace, opportunity, and prosperity. In the management of the pandemic, Madam Speaker, for me personally, and declaring an end to the DRMA is a personal relief for me. Because, Madam Speaker, because, Madam Speaker, in our democracy, it is not usual for there to be such an extended use of executive powers. And I was very reluctant in using it, and sought, Madam Speaker, to ensure that I had no excesses in the use of the executive power by bringing them to Parliament on every occasion that it was possible to do so, and have it debated here so that the opposition could have an input in what was being done. Madam Speaker, there is a genuine argument to be made and accepted that, powers, if used at an extended scale, could be a threat to democracy. And we on this side recognize that, and we have never debated that point because it and I have seen recent we recognize every morning. Same thing we have done for Parliament. Parliament must start at 2. And Madam Speaker, we have appointed a sergeant at arms. Her name is Minister Gray. She is the whip. And her job, Madam Speaker, is to collect $500 for every 5 minutes that a cabinet minister is late. What has happened, No, 500 Jamaican dollars. What has happened, and that would be, what has happened, Madam Speaker, is that we haven't been able to collect much because all the ministers are on time. So Madam Speaker, I think we should be considering it for Parliament. But with what I saw yesterday, where some people were starstruck and forgot their senses, I believe they should be fined. And so, Minister Grange, who is used to being among stars and kept her mask on, I am appointing you, Minister, to collect $100,000 from every minister who was here. And Madam Speaker, make a donation to a worthy charity. Yes. Or to the defense of anyone who is so charged. Remain with a pending charge. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, in our 60th year of independence, the greatest task before us as leaders is to chart a course for the country that secures a future of peace, opportunity, and prosperity for all Jamaicans. Over the past decade, through successive administrations, we have laid a robust, resilient, and sustainable macroeconomic foundation. This has been achieved through great sacrifice by the Jamaican people, and we must never take it for granted. But this is not an end in itself. It is the means to fulfilling the dreams and aspirations of the Jamaican people. The macroeconomic foundation is fertile on which we must now sow seeds for future peace, opportunity. Madam Speaker, my presentation today will be structured around 5 seeds: security, energy and environment, education and skills, development of infrastructure, social partnership, and unity. Security. Madam Speaker, since taking office in 2016, a safer, more secure Jamaica has been and continues to be a priority for this government. I envision a Jamaica where its people live in harmony, where life, nature, and property are respected, where our socio-emotional intelligence is such that violence is not used in social interaction. I want to see a Jamaica where the people can sleep with their windows and doors open, and I do not resile from that. It is an ambition that we should all have, rather than gleefully cheering where the situation seems overwhelming or unachievable. Madam Speaker, I am confident that in my lifetime, we will bring our murder rate down to the regional average, and we will remove the propensity to violence from our people. Madam Speaker, I have dedicated myself to this cause, and my resolve is still in this matter. Madam Speaker, no other Prime Minister has taken In 2017, we started Plan Secure Jamaica, a comprehensive whole-of-government, multi-year plan to decisively and sustainably address the epidemic of crime and violence. Madam Speaker, Plan Secure Jamaica comprises 6 strategic elements. Implementing this plan, we have been putting in place the required technology, surveillance, telecommunications, mobility, forensics, human resource training, intelligence apparatus, legal and institutional developments towards achieving these objectives. Recruitment and training to increase the size and capabilities of the JCF continues. And the JCF's 2021-2022 target of 1,200 new recruits will be met. This will be the highest number of members recruited in a single year. It is an unassailable fact that the investment in building our national security apparatus by this government is unprecedented. It is important for the country to understand that we are pushing or pursuing a long-term, multifaceted strategy that will result in sustainable reductions in crime and violence. This is not a quick fix. Under Plan Secure Jamaica, we have started to strengthen our national security architecture by increasing the level and intensity of cooperation between agencies in the security space to narrow the opportunities for crime and remove the profit from crime. Madam Speaker, the government has remained unwavering in its strategic focus and resolve to disrupt and dismantle criminal gangs, interdict guns and gunmen, and confiscate every illegal gun in Jamaica. The failure to take meaningful and targeted action against Jamaica's biggest threat, the illegal gun, by successive governments is having lasting consequences for us today. The government has adopted a multifaceted approach to the problem of illegal guns through guns and law enforcement efforts. The Firearms Prohibition, Restriction and Regulation Act has been tabled in this House and is now being reviewed by a joint select committee. It will introduce harsher penalties for offences connected with the illicit trade, manufacture, stockpiling, possession, profiling, and use of illegal guns. We have launched the Get Every Illegal Gun campaign. The Firearm Licensing Authority, the FLA, and the Jamaica Customs Agency have intensified their efforts to detect illegal guns entering the country. The government has already initiated adjustments to the operations of the FLA to prevent impropriety in the issuing of gun permits. Further amendments will be made to the Firearms Bill to remove the discretion of a minister to grant firearms licenses, to require fit and proper standards and security vetting for members of the board, to require security vetting and polygraphs for all staff in sensitive posts at the FLA, and to clearly define persons who are prohibited from applying for a firearm. Madam Speaker, there have been many calls locally for our security partners to assist us with the detection of guns coming into our ports and the interdictions overseas, sending these guns to Jamaica. Scamming. However, from our side, we must show that we are serious. It cannot be that agents at our ports are complicit in facilitating the import and contraband, and nothing is done about it. It cannot be that get lightening up FLA and customs. We are sending a message to our security partners that the Jamaican government is serious about stopping illegal guns, gangs, scammers, and gunmen and drugs. We will be seeking to intensify our cooperation with our security partners, particularly the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada. I have a word for all those overseas sending back guns to Jamaica in barrels and TVs. Stop it! Stop it! We will find you and we will ask for your extradition back to Jamaica to serve time in a Jamaican prison. That is another key element of the strategy, Madam Speaker. We have to have stronger, closer relations with our security partners on these matters so that they see we are serious. Can't be that we are asking for help and at the same time we don't appear to be serious. Because if we tighten that security partnership, Madam Speaker, we can stem the flow of guns through our legal ports. So, Madam Speaker, and I say stop it. But I have another thing to tell them. You mean us no good by sending us guns. You don't mean us any good by sending guns here. And so I have no sympathy for you. And by virtue of this statement today, as the Minister of Finance said, and the Leader of the Opposition said, can't say me never did I warn you. Recently, the recently launched JCF, JDF anti-gang task force has been operational, and their efforts so far have been reaping significant success. For the period January 1 to March 14, 2022, Jamaica recorded 967 major crimes, a reduction of 11%. This is the lowest incidence of major crimes since 2010. Murders are down by 5.2%. They are now at 292 compared to 308. At this point, Madam Speaker, shootings are down by 19%. There are now 222 shootings compared to 274. Madam Speaker, I'm sure we have noticed that whenever we talk about a reduction in murder, very shortly thereafter, we see a spike. I used to say to the Minister of National Security, don't say anything about it. And then an interesting revelation from a trial. Very interesting revelation. But we knew this because, Madam Speaker, our intelligence was telling us that, the average Jamaican looks at crime as a simple street-level activity. That's not what is happening here. We have organized intelligence driving crime. These are not poor boys of circumstances. These are criminals managing large enterprises who use their power and influence to affect the state, because that's effectively what that criminal was doing. No, the government look too good, man. You have to turn it up. Yeah, so that is the kind of criminals we are dealing with. So this sympathy for crime in the country and sympathy for criminals, we must get that out of our minds. There must be no sympathy for any criminal in this country. None. We have, Madam Speaker, 196 firearms have been seized, which to date might be even more, which represents an overall increase of 26%. and a 100% increase in rifle seizures. The campaign is working. People are giving information. Madam Speaker, we have put $25 million from the FLA into the Get Every Illegal Gun campaign. That is, there was a misconception, a misperception rather, that we are trying to buy back guns. We're not buying back any guns. What we are buying is information. That's what we're doing. Madam Speaker, for the last 50 years, illegal guns have posed a challenge for Jamaica. 70 to 80% of all murders involve the use of an illegal gun. We must change the risk-benefit structure around illegal guns. Presently, the risk of owning an illegal gun is relatively low compared to the benefit that a gunman gets. With the new policies, laws, and capabilities coming into effect, the risk of being involved in any way with an illegal gun or a gunman will far outweigh the benefit claimed from having an illegal gun. We are changing the narrative where in some communities illegal guns are a part of life, a part of our culture, and many this approach in the minds of our young people. But, unfortunately, over the years, we as a society have excused the possession of an illegal gun as a means of correcting historical social inequities. We have even cast the illegal gun as an economic tool, a means of livelihood, eating of food. We have been ambivalent in denouncing the illegal gun. We have been sympathetic to those who present the argument that they possess self-defense. Yet we look with alarm and amazement that our murder rate is rising, that communities are captured by criminals while decent law-abiding citizens tremble in fear of teenage gangsters. We have set back for decades the acceptance, Madam Speaker, of the gun culture. And we have sat back and we have seen the gun culture taking over our youths and our communities. We cannot sit by any longer and see the gun take over our society. The message we are putting forward is directed especially at our young men. Those facilitators of illegal weapons who hide these weapons, or as they say, lock them, who sell them or rent them or courier them, the trigger pullers who use them, the shutters. I'm sending a message to those who hang around the gunmen, the girlfriends, baby mothers, sisters, and mothers who give them cover and protection. Give up the gun. Certain. Finally, to mothers and family members of those young men who have illegal guns, talk to your sons and deliver the warning to them. Discourage them. Help them to give up the gun. Tell us where it is and let us find it and get it out of your life. Again, can't say me never did I warn you. The JDF retired Chief of Staff for his sterling leadership of the JDF, and we welcome our new Chief of Staff, Rear Admiral Antoinette Wims-Gorman. As part of Plan Secure Jamaica, we have been expanding the capabilities of the JDF in air, sea, land, and cyber domains. The JDF is also playing a key role in social intervention and community building through training and youth engagement. Madam Speaker, in our land domain, the JDF will be expanding its patrol, surveillance, and presence in our remote and inaccessible regions across Jamaica. Where feasible, permanent presence will be established, and this will assist not only in detecting criminals and illegal activities, but it will help with conservation of our natural resources in these areas. Madam Speaker, on Thursday last, I approved the transfer of over 100 acres of hilltop land from the Windsor Farm property in Warwicker Hills to the JDF for the creation of a special operations base. This is a strategic location from which the JDF can take control of the mountain range and conduct a range of operations in support of the JCF and other national security goals. Madam Speaker, this is the first of many such bases. We will not cede 1 inch of land for criminals to feel that they have control and are out of reach of law enforcement and the Jamaican state. Madam Speaker, we are investing in very sophisticated technologies, and we are developing strategies to counter these criminals. So if they think that they can hide, go up into the hills, come down and extort people doing the road work in Bull Bay, we know you. We are going to find you, and you will be dealt with according to the law. Madam Speaker, too often our intelligence points to crimes being directed from prisons, including the ordering of murders. The phones and contraband do not walk into the prisons by themselves. As it stands now, our prisons are a national security risk. Last year, I tasked the Minister of National Security and the JDF to finalize designs for a high security prison, the lands where such prisons can be built. The plans are close to completion, and the land has been located and secured. That is the case, Minister. We consider this a matter of great urgency to be expedited, Minister of Finance, through the public investment process. If we can do it this year, we will find the money somewhere to do it. If we can go through the public investment process quickly. But that is a national security risk. I know the member from South St. Catherine has been talking about that for a long time, but no. However, Madam Speaker, regardless of how thick we make the walls, the number of cameras we install, and how far we locate the prison, if there is collusion between guards and prisoners, phones and other contraband will get in, and messages and instructions will get out. It is precisely why the government amended the Corrections Act in December 2021, adding criminal sanctions to those who facilitate and benefit from the trading in contraband. To note, Madam Speaker, the first charges have been laid, and a matter related to contraband is now before the courts. The JCF and the Department of Correctional Services will continue to tighten the screws on those who seek to continue their criminal enterprise behind bars. Despite this important step, there has to be a total rethink of the correctional services to guarantee the integrity of the service. The National Security Council will be considering further reforms in this regard to ensure that criminal masterminds and gang leaders cannot continue to conduct their criminal enterprise and direct murder from prison. Madam Speaker, this government is pursuing a comprehensive, sustainable strategy to improve our security and sowing seeds of peace, opportunity, and prosperity. Madam Speaker, just agree. Madam Speaker, I think about all the lives we could have saved. There is a false argument being marketed by people who lack sympathy, understanding, and compassion for families who are suffering from crime, that SOEs do not work. Madam Speaker, that is not the case. Any fair examination of our murder statistics show that whenever we have used the state of public emergency, we have seen significant reduction. And Madam Speaker, once they are in place, they continue to suppress. We have all agreed, and we don't debate the point, that SOEs are not an excuse for regular policing. But in a situation like ours, where our crime is well above what is the worldwide rate of about 6 per 100,000 and the regional rate of about 15 per 100,000. We are somewhere close to 50 per 100,000. If that is not the definition of an emergency, I don't know what is. But as I say, Madam Speaker, it is what it is. Madam Speaker, I now turn to energy. Just as the world seems to be getting over the worst of the pandemic, the commodity prices, particularly the price of oil and gas, casting a shadow over global economic confidence, just at the moment optimism about the post-pandemic recovery was beginning to take hold. This geopolitical crisis, thousands of miles away, is of macro-critical importance for Jamaica. The cost of energy is now a fiscal risk and likely to become our most significant growth impediment. The cost of imported crude and refined oil products was over $1 billion, an increase of 77% relative to 2020. The increase in the volume of imports between 2020 and 2021 was approximately 13%. The current levels of global prices are 40 to 50 times higher than the average levels prevailing in 2021. So, Madam Speaker, we increased our volumes by 13%, but the cost increased by 77%. And that just showed you what was happening to the price of oil. Madam Speaker, this illustrates the extent of oil price volatility and our vulnerability to its vagaries. Volatile oil prices immediately have an effect on the transport sector and on the cost of electricity. This then ripples through all segments of the economy, affecting inflation and impacting our balance of payments and therefore the exchange rate. We have been monitoring the world prices and we have been seeing some recent corrections in the spike. Price went up a bit today. We expect that this general downward settling will continue as the markets adjust. However, prices are likely to remain high, and in the long term, the fundamental volatility will continue. The fiscal response to uncertainty and volatility is to build buffers to absorb shocks. This means being disciplined with revenues and targeting expenditure to the people who are hardest hit and least able to withstand adverse price changes. There are calls from certain quarters to give up revenues, while at the same time calling for increased expenditure. Without increasing borrowing. While the opposition can make these calls without any political accountability, it is the government that must balance the books of the country so that all Jamaican households can balance their books in return. Madam Speaker, Jamaica has been through its period of populist economics and reckless fiscal management. It has landed us in high debt, unable to respond to crises without incurring further debt. It was not too long ago that the Jamaican people would tune in to these budget debates with great fear and trepidation that there would be an increase in tax rates or the introduction of new taxes. No, Madam Speaker, the only controversial thing coming out of the Finance Minister's budget presentation is whether or not has presented In addition, we have removed taxes such as the minimum business tax and income tax for persons earning less than 1.5 million. We reduced taxes such as GCT and transfer tax. I am sure every Jamaican is quite appreciative of the fact that in the midst of the economic fallout from the pandemic, which was the worst global crisis in 100 years, and now exacerbated by oil price increases, factors outside of our control, our government can come to the people and say, no new taxes. Opposition has the Jamaican people. Over 58 billion in new taxes were put on the people during a period of relative global stability and growth. Madam Speaker, We cannot go back there. While I understand that you are struggling to find points to counteract, I urge the opposition to remain true to the national social consensus around fiscal discipline, which they helped to build, and not to sacrifice this consensus for political expediency. Madam Speaker, the evidence shows that when it is practical to do so, and at the first opportunity, the posture and intent of this administration is always to reduce tax burden on the people. As we recover and our fiscal situation improves, I am sure that there will be more opportunities for givebacks, notwithstanding, we are deeply concerned about the human suffering and economic hardship caused on vulnerable Jamaicans by general worldwide inflation, and specifically the cost of food and energy. We have reserved resources in the budget for targeted support to the most vulnerable households and sectors. We have demonstrated that we are able to administer targeted care packages and programs with great efficiency and effectiveness. This is a far better way of using scarce resources to show care. Madam Speaker, short-term cushioning is an important response to the oil price shock. However, we must take bold and decisive steps to reduce the extent of our dependence on oil and gas imports for our domestic energy needs. Before I go on to those steps, Madam Speaker, I think I need to make a point, and the Minister of Finance will probably reinforce that. It is always amazing to me, Madam Speaker, that the opposition calls all the time, calls out the inequality in our society. And by any measure, Jamaica is one of the most unequal in the region. Right, the welfare effect of that, you couldn't guarantee that it would have the highest impact on the persons who need it the most. Right? In fact, what would happen, it would probably accrue mostly to those who can afford it. So we're very careful about that. And we hear the calls all the time. But Madam Speaker, it is our job to understand the economics. Other people can talk, but we have to understand. Our policy. In policy that exacerbates inequality. And, Madam Speaker, so people, sorry for departing from my script, Madam Speaker, but, later on I'll have to deal with this element. But it's important to deal with it here. So, Madam Speaker, one of the reasons why we promote the digital society and we promote things like NIDS is to help us in our strategy of direct transfers. so that we can properly identify and account for those who truly need the help. So, Madam Speaker, we have to maintain things on the revenue side. Can spend directly on beneficiaries who need it. And it is in that way that you reduce inequality. So, Madam Speaker, as I said, short-term cushioning is an important response, and the Minister of Finance, in his presentation and to come, explained how we have set aside resources in the budget for this kind of targeted response. We're using partnerships with faith-based institutions. We're going through the MPs, and we're going to go through various consumer groups and organizations to assist. And the Minister at a later stage will give us more details as to that targeted approach. But, Madam Speaker, as we know, in the long term, cushioning is self-defeating in the long term. Because what you end up doing, Madam Speaker, is depleting your revenues such that you cannot help when you really need to. That's what it does. So you have to balance it very carefully when you decide to do cushioning. Right? You have to be very strategic and very careful with it, because you don't want to deplete your revenue, have people having expectations, and then the only way out of that politically is to go and borrow. And then when you borrow, the pool that you can use to support is smaller, because now you have to pay interest. And it narrows over time your policy space. Does that sound familiar, Madam Speaker? That was what was happening to Jamaica for the last 30 years. Man come with sweet mouth and promise you, oh, we're going to give, oh, promise you this and promise you, don't know where the money coming from. So, Madam Speaker, it's very frustrating. I must tell you, Madam Speaker, it's very, very frustrating listening to the level of public debate and commentary on these issues, because people don't take the time to truly understand what are the challenges that we face. Madam Speaker, Jamaica is blessed with abundant solar, wind, and potential for hydroelectricity, and tapping these must be a national priority. We must transition quickly from carbon-based fuels to renewables as the base of our electricity generation and commuter transport. This is the only way to shield ourselves from the instability of the global energy markets. At current price levels, a reduction of just 10% in imported oil could save us close to $150 million annually. Madam Speaker, this is the policy direction that this government has been pursuing for several years. The crisis in the Ukraine has only reinforced this policy direction and has made it even more urgent. In my budget presentation in March 2020, I had outlined an innovative and transformational project that would simultaneously address two critical challenges: energy and water. I had indicated that the government was exploring the implementation of a pump, storage, hydroelectric, and water systems project. I am pleased to report that we have received an unsolicited proposal from a consortium of reputable local and international companies to implement the project. In a nutshell, the project involves deep-sea desalination and pumping the fresh water into reservoirs at high elevations using solar. The fresh water will be gravity-fed downhill through high turbines generating electricity. The water will then be channeled to reservoirs downstream to be used for household purposes and irrigation. Madam Speaker, this is a transformational project and has the potential to solve the water scarcity problem of the Kingston metropolitan area, providing a third source of stored water supply to complement the Mona Reservoir and Hermitage Dam. At the same time, it would generate a significant amount of hydroelectric power. The project will have a significant cross-cutting impact, as it will also provide climate change mitigation and adaptation benefits. The proposal is currently undergoing technical and due diligence reviews. Subject to the satisfactory completion of these reviews, it is the intention of the government to designate the project a Jamaica 60 National Development Project and enter into direct negotiations with the consortium in order to fast-track its implementation. A project like this is being done in Peru. The science behind it is clear, but the details are always the engineering that is possible in the particular space and location. So I'm not saying that this project is a definitive yes, but we must explore it and we must see if it can be done. If it can be done, then we will pursue it. Madam Speaker, renewables currently account for 13% of our energy generation mix, and our stated target for renewables is 30% by 2030. I've asked the Minister of Energy to increase that to 50%. This will still leave us extremely vulnerable to global oil price shocks. We must formally establish a much more ambitious target for renewable energy. The pumped storage hydroelectric water systems project, along with other proposals on the table, could move our renewables proportion to what I have said, 50%. Can you imagine if 50% of our electricity is generated by our natural resources here? The world is reaching a tipping point for the adoption of electric vehicles. A number of global automobile manufacturers have decided to discontinue the manufacture of internal combustion engines by 2030 to meet regulatory requirements and our environment. We must therefore act quickly. With the assistance of the Inter-American Development Bank, the government has developed a strategic framework to guide the introduction of electric vehicles in Jamaica. According to the IDB, a conversion to e-mobility of 12 to 16% of our private and public fleet would result in savings to Jamaica of approximately 2% of GDP. That's significant. Madam Speaker, we will be carrying our electric vehicle policy very shortly. Minister Vaz has charge of it. We have already taken some decisions such that when the policy is implemented, all new vehicles for the public fleet, which are not required to go in off-road terrains, will be electric vehicles. Once the policy is implemented, the minister has already given some incentives towards people who want to purchase electric vehicles. So we are starting on that path. But Madam Speaker, let me tell you, I am committed. You know, it's not often that you exist at a time in life when you are seeing such rapid transition in technology. Who would have thought 10 years ago that the internal combustion engine for vehicles would become obsolete? Madam Speaker, we must never let it be the case, as I've said, that the rest of the world dumps their cars on Jamaica and we are still saddled with them while the rest of the world is advancing. Right? We must take the decisions that we are going to be on the cutting edge as well. Madam Speaker, allow me to shift focus to the issues of environmental sustainability, protection and restoration. I have said previously and will reiterate Madam Speaker, I took a little bottle of something here. Don't worry, Mark, it's not Isla Victory. No, Madam Speaker, it's our good old honey and lime from Benjamin's, one of our local manufacturers. It have a little, what it says honey, rum and lime. It's medicinal. Yes. I've said previously and will reiterate today, sustainable economic growth cannot be achieved on the back of environmental degradation, and no inclusive prosperity can be steeped in pollution. Madam Speaker, there has been a concerted attempt by many with political motives to spread misinformation regarding the environment and climate change work that my administration has undertaken both locally and internationally. It is my firm view that any objective assessment will show that this is the greenest government since independence. Madam Speaker, I am sure that I am known as the builder. I come from the school of putting one block on top of the other and creating great things. Let me declare, I am pro-development. My wife is a developer. And I have interest by way of land development agreements in development. Madam Speaker, it is a sign of great confidence in any government and economy, especially during a downturn, to see cranes heisting in our cities. It represents renewal and modernity. We must be careful not to stay a transformational force for our economic development. However, Madam Speaker, I am a man of order, and I believe in orderly development. The Town and Country Planning Authority, the National Environment and Planning Agency, and the municipal corporations have worked together to prepare new parish development orders. Each parish is now covered by at least a provisional order. Nevertheless, I believe we can all admit that there is a concerning level of disorder. if the transformation of our skyline, business districts, and residential communities is to be sustainable and aesthetically pleasing, then it cannot be done in a disorderly way. There are some developers who are non-compliant. While we make no comment on matters before the court or matters decided on, the government takes careful notice of the issues raised. Madam Speaker, a common theme is lack of monitoring, inspection, and enforcement on errant developers. There needs to be greater clarity and tightening of gaps in the legislation governing development, particularly the approvals process. And there needs to be greater coordination and collaboration between the various agencies and arms of government. Communities have complained of lack of consultation before approvals are granted. Following from my discussions with both the head of NEPA and His Worship the Mayor, Councillor Delroy Williams, who is here with us today, the number of officers will be increased for monitoring and supervision of developments. And various technological solutions will be employed to improve monitoring, inspection, and enforcement. Aside from the improving of coordination among the various development and regulatory agencies, the Town and Country Act needs some upgrading. The Town and Country Act was put in place in 1957. Yes. So I've asked both the head of NEPA and the other stakeholders that the process of reviewing the Act should begin, and we need to do it quickly and move through with recommendations for its amendment quickly. And this, of course, should take into consideration the current context. Great consultation should be embedded in the Act. The people who live in areas, their concerns ought to be taken in upfront in determining development. Is effected through the creation of various gazetted legal documents called development orders, which is a public notice of the government's policy intent and direction on permissible parameters, form, and functions of development in a parish or in a particular area of the parish. A development order constitutes land and zoning maps, policy statements, and standards relating to land use activities. The development is important in guiding developers and the wider public on the location, scale, magnitude, and type of development to be undertaken in a development order area. It is also important in setting standards to guide the various planning authorities who must match the various development applications they receive against the standards and guidance in the development orders. It is therefore of utmost importance that the development orders are clear, concise, reasonable, and practical to avoid confusion and vagaries in the application of discretion in the approval process, or the creation of loopholes which can be exploited against the policy intent. Madam Speaker, the issue affecting the various stakeholders in the development space are constantly changing from area to area and changing in their nature as developers seek new opportunities and become more innovative and enterprising. If the development orders do not adequately address the issues, a contentious social mood can emerge against development, and we're seeing that to be the case now. So it is important that the development order is a product of wide consultation and is current in capturing and balancing the concerns of all stakeholders. The development order for Kingston and St. Andrew is provisional. It's not final. And it can be changed. And the challenge with it, Madam Speaker, is that it was done in 2017. So much has happened since then. So I have asked the various agencies involved to ensure that the development order is current in addressing the various concerns so that it can be finalized and confirmed. While there is great energy in the private development space, there appears to be very little appetite for developments in urban spaces in downtown Kingston or Lower St. Andrew. I'm not going to call any community names because, you know, the stigmatization, we want to avoid that. So far, the development is concentrated in and around New Kingston and Upper St. Andrew. This is creating housing for a certain price point and income level, but it is not addressing the great need for affordable housing within the city. The transformation that private development brings, therefore, can create the inequalities and feelings of impediment. If a developer is going to deploy capital in a project with low margins, then scale becomes important in securing returns. The lot sizes available for scale do not readily exist. And while there may be lots available, those lots would not be contiguous. We would want to be able to organize the redevelopment of an entire street or lots. And then this is how you could get infilling. This is how you could then start to see the regeneration of your urban communities. The challenge would be to locate the owners and coordinate their interests to sell at the same time. This is often an impossibility and can be long and unwieldy. Madam Speaker, under the Urban Renewal Tax Relief Act, the government has a very useful tax incentive program, which is administered by the Urban Development Corporation, where certain areas of Kingston and St. Andrew are zoned for tax relief and other incentives if private entities pursue developments within those areas. They would be able to benefit from this incentive programs. They get all kinds of relief. Very few, if any, have applied for the relief. Very few. In a recent article in June 27, 2021, a developer explained some of the reasons why developers were hesitant to take up the incentives. Chief among his concern was the bureaucracy surrounding the program and the complications and potential delays which could affect profitability of a low-margin development. Madam Speaker, there is clearly a need for a more coordinated and strategic approach to stimulating and attracting private capital in areas in need of urban development. It can't be, Madam Speaker, that all the investment is going uptown. And as it goes uptown, we end up in social conflict. So, Madam Speaker, in addition, so we have to do something proactive and instrumental to help guide what is really a market failure. That's what we have to do. So in addition to tax incentives, which, you know, very important point, because the minister and myself on Sunday, we were debating the point. We were brainstorming the point, and we were toying, you know, what could we do? Further incentives, what, you know. And then when you really examine the problem, the problem is not wholly and solely a financial problem. It is also a regulatory problem. That's at the core of it. So we're going to treat with the regulatory issue. So in addition to tax incentives, government has additional tools in the Housing Act. And, you know, not many people know of this act. Leader of the opposition, you're an attorney, you would know this one. The Local Improvement Community Amenities Act, 1977. Very powerful piece of legislation. But we haven't really used it. So we're going to pull the two acts together, and we're going to use them. Well, when we used it recently in Minister Samuda's constituency. Right? So we're going to use them. And government, for the first time in decades, there's also another very powerful tool, aside from the legislation. Very powerful tool. A fiscal tool, but very powerful. Not tax reduction. But for the first time in decades, government has a clear pathway for capital expenditure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We have a clear pathway for capital expenditure, that we can program capital expenditure to target areas in which we are trying to stimulate renewal. So, Madam Speaker, the government will therefore revisit the zoned areas under the tax incentive program for urban renewal, with a view to including certain selected areas which are not now covered, but aligned and in proximity to the government's capital expenditure program to improve infrastructure. This requirement for the program will be, the requirements, for the program will be reviewed to reduce unnecessary bureaucracy, and the government will use its powers under the various legislations where necessary to acquire parcels of land for the purpose of renewing and developing communities of affordable housing in urban areas. So, Madam Speaker, we are retaining on the tax side the fiscal incentive. We're going to direct on the expenditure side, our capital spending, and we're going to use the regulatory powers to drive the renewal of our urban communities. Madam Speaker, I have been deliberate in not giving too many details of the specific areas, as I do not want to go ahead of the finalization of the development order. Neither do I want speculators to start to act in the market. Madam Speaker, what we are proposing here will be a game changer for our blighted urban communities and for persons seeking to find affordable homes in Kingston. This is planting the seed for peace, opportunity, and prosperity. Madam Speaker is a member of the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People, which has set a target of a minimum of 30% protection of land and oceans by 2030. This means that Jamaica is actively pursuing the protection of 30% of its landmass and 30% of its marine areas by 2030. These targets reflect Jamaica's clear ambition to double the targets currently agreed by the United Nations Environment Programme of 15%. The Convention on Biological Jamaica is a party, defines a protected area as a clearly defined geographical space recognized, dedicated, and managed through legal or other effective means to achieve the long-term conservation of nature with associated ecosystem services and This designation of the Black River Protected Area will preserve the natural and cultural heritage of the area, including the swamp forests, mangroves, beaches, seagrass, and coral reefs. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I am proud to advise this Honourable House that the work to declare 78,024 hectares of the cockpit country a protected area is complete. Again in my hand is the gazetted order under the NRCA Act, which provides binding legal protection to the area displayed on the map. It is important to note that the protected area is approximately 3,229 hectares larger than the 74,726 hectares which was announced in 2017. Madam Speaker, the Cockpit Country Protected Area is the island's largest terrestrial protected area and overall the second largest protected area after the Portland Bight Protected Area, which spans 187,615 hectares of both terrestrial and marine areas. To facilitate an accurate definition of the boundary of the Cockpit Country Protected Area, a ground truthing exercise was undertaken. This activity commenced in July 2018 and was completed in December 2021. Completed rather in December 2021. In undertaking this exercise, the department surveyed and installed georeferenced permanent markers along 77% of the boundary and used graphical features to delimit the remaining 23. Let me say on this, Madam Speaker, we have had reports of persons disturbing the markers which were used to define the area. I am not going to say anything else other than we will be strict in prosecuting persons who do this. Madam Speaker, we have also included an additional 841 hectares of the clawed back area under mining lease SML 173, that famous mining lease, within the boundaries of the Cockpit Country Protected Area. Concurrent with the designation of the CCPA, the government has issued the Mining Prohibition Cockpit Country Protected Area Notice 2022, under which the entire area is now closed to prospecting and mining. There will be no mining in the Cockpit Country Protected Area. Let me not go. And I think, Madam Speaker, that is a major achievement in our system. We've been talking about it for decades and back and forth and back and forth. Well, Madam Speaker, we got it done. Madam Speaker, there is more to come. In the upcoming financial year, we will move forward with the protection of the Pedro Keys and the surrounding waters. The work in this area is far advanced, and we will protect 82,200 hectares of land and marine area. In addition to this, Madam Speaker, the government will move to create a designation under the NRCA Act for ecologically sensitive areas. This will provide a greater level of protection for areas with particular environmental sensitivities. The government has already identified 16 such areas, 9 of which will be in the coastal zone. The Great Bay area in southwest St. Elizabeth and the Dry Harbor area in St. Anne are on the list. This will mean that activities such as mining will not be permissible in these designated areas. It will be defined. You will see it. You will see it. The important part of the statement is that there will be no mining there. Madam Speaker, the addition of the CCPA and the completion of the new designations we will be well on our way to meeting the target of 30% of land and marine areas under protection by 2030. That, Madam Speaker, is a big achievement. Madam Speaker, this government is protecting Jamaica's environment for future generations and sowing the seeds for peace, opportunity, and prosperity. Madam Speaker, I quickly want to turn to education. Education is a foundation on which all our aspirations of peace, opportunity, and prosperity depend. The root cause, and therefore the socio-economic and social ills, poverty, crime, and violence, economic stagnation, lies in the education and socialization of our children. The pandemic has had a devastating impact on education. While there have been many notable successes in getting children tablets and computers, as well as expanding internet access, the learning loss over the past 2 years has been incalculable. Jamaica is not unique in this regard. UNESCO reports that schools closures impacted approximately 1.6 billion children, or 94% of the world's student population. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the many principals, teachers, school workers, parents, and students who have done their best to persevere in the most difficult circumstances. Nothing could have given me more satisfaction than to see our children returning to full face-to-face school. Madam Speaker, we have budgeted approximately $1 billion for temporary teachers to help our students. That's a very important point, Madam Speaker. We're not just talking about recovery for learning loss. We are actually putting the money there. Since the recent launch of our extra lesson advantage of this extra lesson support to begin to make up for the learning loss. While we work to address the learning loss from the pandemic, we are concurrently embarking on a systemic transformation of our education system to address three fundamental issues. The first is the quality of education and alignment with future job markets. Many of the things we take for granted today, the iPhone, Twitter, WhatsApp, Instagram, and Snapchat, did not even exist 10 years ago. If we take a look at the most valuable companies in the world by market value in 2004 versus today, in 2004, General Electric was number one. Can you imagine today General Electric is 134th? Yeah? And of course, Apple is the top company today. Only one company, Microsoft, was in the top 10 in 2004 and is still in the top 10 today, a technology company. In 2004, only 2 of the top 10 were technology companies. Today, 7 of the top 10 technology companies. This shows us the fast pace and direction of change. We are now firmly in the midst of a global technological revolution, the 4th industrial revolution, that is transforming the way we access information, communicate, learn, and even play. In its scale, scope, and complexity, the transformation is unlike anything we have experienced before. In our 60th year of independence, as we look to the future, Jamaica cannot rely solely on the sustained us for the last 60 years. We must bring new ideas and technologies to expand and increase efficiency of our traditional industries. We must also create and invest in industries of the future to diversify our industrial and productive base. The World Economic Forum, in its Future of Jobs report, estimated that by 2025, 85 million jobs may be displaced by technology. However, the report also estimates that 97 million new jobs will emerge that are more adapted to the new division of labor between humans, machines, and algorithms. Madam Speaker, is our current education system geared towards preparing our children to compete globally and get their fair share of these 97 million new digital economy jobs? I think we all know the answer. We therefore need to urgently transform our education system so that our children have the skills to participate in this revolution. STEAM disciplines, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, and coding are at the heart of the global technological revolution. We must truly embrace science and technology as drivers of economic transformation and growth. Madam Speaker, we are known for our athletes, music, and culture. Now we must become known for being innovators and creators in science and technology. We must harness the same audacious best in this global technology revolution. This is something we have done before. There have been several groundbreaking Jamaican innovators. For example, Drs. Manley West and Albert Lockhart developed Canosol, a breakthrough treatment for glaucoma. Dr. Cicely Williams discovered the child malnutrition syndrome, kwashiorkor. Dr. Thomas Philip Leckie created new cattle breeds that are more suitable to Jamaican climate and terrain, and surprisingly to tropical climates, and are worldwide demanded now. Dr. Paula Tennant developed a that is resistant to the papaya ring spot virus. I have named just a few. There are several others. But how many Jamaicans, particularly our children, know of these scientists? Madam Speaker, in our 60th year of independence, we must ensure that their stories are publicized and heard for every boy and girl in schools so that they appreciate the rich legacy that has preceded them on which they must build the new Jamaica. We must endow Jamaican boys and girls with not only the technical skills, but the self the grades 1 to grades 13 across all public schools, and youth will acquire basic numeracy, language, and problem-solving skills, which are prerequisites for coding. Madam Speaker, while the pandemic slowed down our plans, we have not given up on our objectives to build 6 new STEM schools and 1 performing arts school. Work has continued apace to identify lands, and we will be launching an architectural design competition to design these new schools. The second core objective of education transformation of societal values. Over the past decades, there has been an erosion of the moral fabric of our society and the basic norms of decency and civility that once characterized us as a nation. Verbal and physical abuse, vulgarity, and barbarity are becoming far too commonplace in our personal interactions. We have socialized an entire generation into normalizing violence. This is at the root of our epidemic of violence. The National Commission on Violence Prevention was established to study the problem of violence and the existing strategies being used to reduce violence and make realistic and attainable recommendations. The Commission has been consulting with violence prevention stakeholders in the public and private sector and civil society to identify gaps in past and current initiatives. The research confirms that violence prevention is a complex task and requires a comprehensive approach, including legal, educational, cultural, behavioral, and social protection interventions. Another critical finding is that violence prevention is most effective when it begins at an early stage. Parenting support and early childhood development. Over time, violence prevention recommendations will be used to guide the creation of policies and programs geared towards a shift in cultural norms and behaviors. If we are to have any hope of restoring values, attitudes, and behaviors that we once cherished as inherently Jamaican, they must form a central part of the education and socialization of our children. A key component of our education must be focused on developing the socio-emotional intelligence, competencies, and skills that will enable us individually and as a people to accomplish great and complex tasks productively with a pro-growth and pro-social mindset while managing our emotions in social transactions to resolve conflict without violence and deviance. The third core objective of education transformation is to address long-standing issues of inequity in our system. Education is a great socio-economic equalizer. Came from very beginnings and are here as a result of access to education. We owe it to current and future generations to give them the same opportunity. Under our current education system, access to the best schools is highly correlated with socioeconomic status. we must take decisive steps to improve access to quality education for the poor and underprivileged. We now have the report on the Education Transformation Commission, chaired by Professor Orlando Pattison, which provides us with a solid blueprint for recommendations for the way forward. The Ministry of Education and Youth has begun its analysis of the report and recommendations. Madam Speaker, one of our challenges as a country has been implementation. In order to ensure that the Commission's recommendations are implemented, I will appoint an Education Transformation Oversight Committee drawn from members of the Commission and key stakeholders, including the opposition, that will be responsible for monitoring and publicly reporting on the progress of implementation of the recommendations. The Oversight Committee will be chaired by Dr. Adrian Stokes, a financial economist at the DBJ. Over the 40 years of its existence, the Trust has trained and certified hundreds of thousands of workers and established an enviable institutional framework for TVET in Jamaica. In fact, the last Global Competitiveness Report issued by the World Economic Forum in 2019, Jamaica is ranked 36 out of 141 countries in the quality of vocational training. Jamaica was the highest ranked Caribbean country and the third highest in Latin America and the Caribbean. Madam Speaker, while we work to strengthen the governance of the Trust and refocus its strategy to improve its effectiveness, let us not throw out the baby with the bathwater, proverbially. We need to build the Trust's multi-decade institutional knowledge in the fields of technical and vocational training, national service, and lifelong learning. Madam Speaker, I have appointed a new board under the chairmanship of Professor Alvin Wint. The key changes that the new board intends to implement are: 1, improvement in the quality of vocational training through increased integration of STEAM, that is science, technology, engineering, art. A shift in the training model to a greater focus on industry attachment through apprenticeship, reintroduction of service corps to increase engagement of unattached youth and strengthen national service in environmental management, geographic information systems, infrastructure and construction, document management and digitization. And we will increase our engagement of at-risk youth. Madam Speaker, I've also asked Professor Pattison, as a follow-up to the report of the Education Transformation Commission, to lead a comprehensive review of the organization and delivery of the Jamaican system of technical and vocational education and training, including an institutional review of the HEART NSTA Trust, and recommend changes to improve its effectiveness. Madam Speaker, this government is transforming our education system and sowing seeds for peace, opportunity, and progress. Madam Speaker, this government has always viewed development of infrastructure as a key driver for progress and a critical enabler for productivity, job creation, poverty reduction, and sustainable economic growth. We are improving our physical infrastructure: roads, bridges, houses, ports, schools, hospitals, police stations, tourist establishments, water and sewer lines, you name it, and the structure as well, which are the foundational services necessary for the information technology capabilities of our country, which will become a digital society. Let me emphasize that infrastructure is not just roads and buildings. It is the interconnected system of sustainable, resilient, and inclusive solutions that work together to drive progress towards our goals. In order to optimize these solutions and accelerate growth, the link to improvement in quality of life must be evident. Madam Speaker, we are cognizant that Jamaica's structure is also under stress because much of our infrastructure is aged. We have population and economic activity shifts. In this, our 60th year, we must tactically and strategically plan for our development to address the current symptoms of the infrastructure deficits: traffic congestion, inadequate health care, poorly designed townships, insecure water and electricity supply, as well as pollution. It is why the strategic aim of this government has been to deliver modern infrastructure that meets our present needs and facilitates future development. Madam Speaker, it is often said that the road to development begins with a road. However, when road networks are not properly planned, they become a hindrance to development. The approach to improving our road network has to be strategic and systematic in order to future-proof the development opportunities. Madam Speaker, as Jamaica becomes more urbanized, it is obvious that our present road network cannot efficiently carry our development needs. By our history, most of our roads followed the coast, as many towns formed around ports. We are now finding that our coastal roads are at risk from sea level rise. But they also cut through valuable beachfront land, which limits development prospects. Some of our main roads and highways pass through one-road townships, which slow down traffic significantly and increases travel time. We have been steadily developing a program to move our roads inland as much as possible and realign routings for highways to avoid going through townships. However, we are realigning the road and bypassing townships so as to create safer and more resilient infrastructure and improve drivability and shorten journeys, which is good for commuters, and it is also good by taking off unnecessary congestion. Madam Speaker, the grand vision, which is also a practical vision, will not only involve the relocation of roads to safe ground and better alignment. There are townships that in their present locations are indefensible to climate change effects or logistically challenging for greater development plans. I know the minds of some is that towns are immovable. Once they are there, they will always be there. But I wish, Madam Speaker, to disrupt that thought process. Not all towns are immovable. And not all towns last forever. And indeed, Jamaica has the capacity to build new towns and build new cities, move others. Yes, we can do it. You know, China is building a new city almost every year. Yeah. We can do it. So, as I said, Madam Speaker, I know in the minds of some, towns are removable. However, as we seek to build a first-class infrastructure and smart urban areas, which are the basis of good quality of life, we must orient our minds with the very fundamental interest of improving the lives of people at the forefront, to recognize of our built environment are to be logically and strategically arranged for efficiency, sustainability, and aesthetics. Madam Speaker, in my last budget presentation, I outlined the plans for the Montego Bay Perimeter Road, so I'm pleased to update the nation today, right? The US $274.5 million contract was signed with China by engineering company, and the process allow me to note two will be done in an environmentally sustainable manner, as NROC and the Forestry Department have signed an MOU which will see large-scale replanting of trees, approximately 62.5 hectares, to replace the tree cover that may be affected during the construction. Now, Madam Speaker, just a quick diversion. I'm watching the time. People say, I've heard criticism such as this, to have, environment in economic growth. Madam Speaker, that's old thinking. If you're going to be sustainable, then you need to have both on the table. And this is why you get things like this. A memorandum of understanding between forestry, which is under economic growth and job creation, and NROC, which is under economic growth and job creation, because they all come through one authority. So there is synergy. So the things work better together. Madam Speaker, the contractor is contractually Jamaican workers are trained from knowledge. Hold on. Of imported workers. This is going to be a project where you will use local workers. And it is not just there as laborers, they will be there as trainees. It is such a tremendous significance that I will again highlight that this will be the first major highway development which is financed with Jamaica's own resources rather than borrowing. We have come a long way as a country. Government is not only ensuring that Jamaica makes strides in the development of critical infrastructure, but also in how these developments are financed. Hopewell, Sandy Bay Pass. Madam Speaker, once again, the Montego Bay, once that perimeter road is complete, So you come at Madam Speaker, you are coming from the airport or from Iron Shore, and you jump on that perimeter road. But here's the problem now. Once you come off the perimeter road now, you end up in Hopewell. Another traffic, another constriction. So, Madam Speaker, we are sure that public sentiment will mount regarding the congestion in Hopewell and Lucy. The NAA has developed preliminary designs and plans for these towns. However, the geography of the area makes it quite difficult and expensive to construct bypasses. I have assigned Minister Homer Davis to begin consultations with the Hanover Municipal Corporation and the political representatives on possible solutions and strategies that could be employed to achieve the objective of improving traffic flows and developing the township. So we know, Madam Speaker, that we can't just go and say, this is what we're going to do. So we have a design, but we need to bring the people along. So, which is why Minister Homer Davis will start that process. So, there will have to be a conversation. Because, maybe I shouldn't say it, but maybe it should be in the consciousness of people. Sometimes it might be that move the road. So we have to look at the cost effective, the economics of it. And maybe moving the town to a new town means a better town for everybody. Plus improved traffic flow. So, Madam Speaker, we shouldn't wed ourselves to how things are now. We should look at things and say how they could be and strive to achieve. The Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. Madam Speaker, the implementation of the Southern Coastal Highway is one of the government's flagship road projects for this upcoming fiscal year. The works will be implemented under the project include the road widening and realignment, the drainage upgrade, bridge construction, water line and sewer line installation, ducts for fiber optic cables, traffic management improvement, and safety improvement such as sidewalks, street lights, markings, and signage. This is not only a roadway, it is a development corridor and a game changer for the eastern end of the island. Madam Speaker, Tranche 1 of the project has 5 packages, which are between 63 and 70, with the Hordley to Long Road and Mansion Hill to Fair Prospect stretches at the highest level of completion. Cumulatively, the government is spending just under $5.4 billion on the corridor, making up Tranche 1. Tranche 2, valuing approximately $6.6 billion, has a further 5 packages and is between 15% and 30% complete. Just over 38 kilometers of road is being targeted for reconstruction under this tranche. Already, the Maypen to Williams Sea of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project is underway. That's the extension to the East-West Highway. Upon completion, this road extension will enable the bypass of the winding and narrow roads of Porus in Manchester, eventually merging into the Melrose Hill bypass. It will reduce the travel time from Kingston to Williamsfield to approximately 40 minutes. Hereby improving personal productivity and providing a basis for bolstering business activity, including South Coast tourism. Madam Speaker, while we celebrate the gains, I must also acknowledge the disruption to daily lives of citizens, especially in Portland and St. Thomas. Some residents have been negatively impacted by the disruptive nature of the work. I have directed the NWA to ensure that contractors are respectful of the rights and property of the residents. I ask the residents and commuting public to continue to have patience and pardon us as we make progress on your road to prosperity. You will be the beneficiary of a high-quality integrated road infrastructure that will enable future economic development, at least for the next 40 years. I want to talk a little bit, Madam Speaker, about the North Coast Highway project. Madam Speaker, traffic volumes along the North Coast Highway have increased significantly since it was developed in the 1990s. Exceed the design capacity of the current roadway. With new housing and commercial establishments along the route, the highway in some sections functions road with many ingress-egress crossings and encroachments. This means that travel time and congestion on the roadway will be increased for road users. We have been hearing the complaints of the traveling public on this very important corridor. NROC has commenced a project. NROC has commenced a project planning exercise to upgrade approximately 60 kilometers of roadways from Sea Castles in St. James to Marmy Bay in St. Anne, from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, with a 21-kilometer 4-lane bypass for the now constrained and congested towns of Discovery Bay and Runaway Bay. We are expecting to complete the planning phase to progress to the public investment approval phase and the procurement phase in time for construction in the next financial year. That's the target I'm setting. You know, I'm looking at the Minister of Finance because this is a special project. I won't say too much about I won't say too much about why it is a special project, but it is like the Montego Bay bypass. It will be funded from our budget. Madam Speaker, I want to spend a little time on the Montego Bay bypass. Madam Speaker, the NWA is currently carrying out shoreline protection work on sections of the North Coast Highway that leads through Montego Bay. In addition to the threat from the sea, the road leading through the town is significantly congested. I don't know if you ever Montego Bay. If you have ever driven through Montego Bay. Yes, I saw him. Yes. There was no congestion at that time, though. The NWA has finalized an alignment for the bypass road, which is more inland. Design work will begin this year, and we expect to have the project through the investment approval and procurement process in time for construction in the next fiscal year. That's how fast we are moving that way. It's not an expensive project, and it's not long either. It's very short. And the alignment is, there is an existing road, and so we'll use that existing alignment and road and create a proper bypass. I don't want to say where yet, but now I want to spend a little time, Madam Speaker, on a parish I love, Portland, a town I love, Port Antonio. So, Madam Speaker, I want to talk about the Port Antonio bypass and the wider Port Antonio development. Madam Speaker, you will recall that the government of Jamaica undertook the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project with the expressed aim to unlock the development potential of Jamaica's south and east coast. In furtherance of this goal, the government has approved the construction of the Port Antonio bypass in Portland as a part of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project. As currently conceptualized, the project will see the construction of 17 kilometers of 4 lanes of arterial road around Port Antonio and 2 standard shoulders. So if you can, you will see the red line. Well, it's clear on the left. So that is the alignment. Madam Speaker, the initial and primary objective is to take traffic passing through the town, but not going to the town, out of the town. Therefore, Madam Speaker, in the first instance, we will construct 2 driving lanes for the bypass. So the road, Madam Speaker, will then look like the Palisados road. So you build the 2 driving lanes, but you leave 2 spaces for 2 other lanes, plus the shoulders. And that is how, Madam Speaker, we are able to get it done quickly. So, Madam Speaker, in the medium term, and we will also leave a reservation for a utility corridor. The medium term objective is to plan out residential and limited commercial developments along the bypass corridor, which will connect with the 140,000 square feet Boundbrook Urban Center. So the strategy, Madam Speaker, is that it is not really a bypass. It is a development road. That's what it is. But what we're doing is through relatively virgin territory, bypassing the main town, but strategically plan out around that bypass road, and then that bypass road will eventually become the development main road through a new development for Port Antonio. But to get the development to happen in Port Antonio, you need to remove the congestion out of Port Antonio. So this will create opportunities for the people of Portland to have access to structured development while lessening the urban use of Port Antonio itself. You know, Port Antonio is such a beautiful town. But you're not going to be able to truly realize the beauty of the town and to benefit from it because it has so much urban and domestic uses that it takes away from the town. So this is what we mean when we say, Madam Speaker, we are planning. That's what planning is about. Urban planning. Madam Speaker, that's what was the initial plan. And that toll road would have gone past Portland. That is Port Antonio. So we had already identified, the NWA had already identified an alignment. So we are using the already identified alignment. But, Madam Speaker, we're not going to turn it into a toll road. some of the lands we already own, much of it, some of it we acquire, but we are committed to it and we are moving ahead. And the objective is that it will start in the 2023-2024 financial year. That is in the next financial year. Pay close attention to that year.
200 billion infrastructure project. You heard me say.
And I want to spend a little time on some urban roads in corporate area and Portmore, just quickly. So, Madam Speaker, the government plans to implement $13 billion special capital expenditure CapEx program targeting 6 strategic high traffic corridors. We're going to be widening Arthurwick Drive from Mountain View to Town. Madam Speaker, very important, that corridor. Now remember what I spoke of earlier regarding trying to stimulate development in urban areas that are suffering from blight. Now that corridor, Madam Speaker, will see a significant investment. Sewer, internet, proper water. So that corridor can be used as a stimulus for development in those areas. I never call any community name. Don't mention any name. I see a big smile on the MP for Southeast. But we intend to sit down with you and work out what is possible, seeing that the government is putting this massive investment in that area. Then, Madam Speaker, and that will begin April this year. That begins April this year. The contract is of Grange Lane, I-95 to Madrid Avenue, including Cumberland Gully Bridge. That's in Portmore, the new parish. That begins in May 2022. Widening Untitled. Widening of Brayton Road and part of Helsha Main Road, that is from Naggerhead to the Texaco gas station to East Mid Street. That begins next year, April 2023. Widening of the Sandy Gully Bridge on Washington Boulevard, that is north side, at Pembroke Hall to part of Ken Hill Drive dualization. And that begins April 2023, next financial year. And then, Madam Speaker, did I leave one out? The big one. Very important, Madam Speaker, the dualization of East King's House Road and Lady Musgrave Road. Madam Speaker, we know, Madam, it's between both of them. Madam Speaker, we know that there are concerns being expressed. No, man, Madam Speaker, we know that residents have expressed concerns about the improvement of this particular corridor. The fear is that it might bring more traffic to the area. Madam Speaker, let me say that we have studied the problem, and I think you're not going to see any greater traffic. I think what you will see is a smoother flow of traffic. But the important thing is there are concerns raised along that corridor. There are certain trees, and you know, in previous developments, we have not always have been as sensitive as we should to protecting the trees that are there. So I have tasked Minister Matthew Samuda, who is here. He's well aware of what the task is with the Forestry Department. We are looking to acquire a particular piece of equipment that can be used to, not a saw, no, a particular piece of equipment that can take up the tree whole. It's not a guarantee that we will be able to save some of these trees because some of these trees are very old. But what we have done is we have identified properties nearby where these trees that we will have to relocate, they will be placed there. But, Madam Speaker, we must pay attention to our streetscapes. When you drive in some other countries, it is a beauty. The infrastructure is not just to throw down the concrete and leave it nasty and chaka. Madam Speaker, we have to get above that now. And that particular road has a certain character about it. And I can understand why the residents would be concerned. And so the street, I have said to the NWA, pay close attention to the streetscaping. Right? So, Madam Speaker, I am going to be personally looking at that one to ensure that when we do improve the road, we improve the character of the road, we reduce the noise that comes from the road, that it can become a corridor that people can look at. And I mean, we have an elegant corridor, but yes, it can be a corridor, an aesthetically pleasing corridor. Yeah. Madam Speaker, the final high traffic area is the new Portmore access. That is the Mandela entry into Portmore. The creation of a bridge over the Rio Covo. That will begin August 2023. That is next year. But the planning, the designs, all of that is almost complete. You're going through the investment process, and that will start. Madam Speaker, just quickly, because people listening will say, but then the next year that. Madam Speaker, road doesn't start when you see the backhoe break ground for the first time. No. The road starts a year before, when the engineers finalize the designs, and then we go through a process called the public investment process, where every expenditure of public resources for an investment goes through a very rigorous process of testing. It is really a competition against, should we really be using the money to do this versus something else to ensure that we are getting the best value for the money. That process can take a little time. It does frustrate me, but it's a process we have to go through. And then once you have gone through that, then you have to go through a procurement process, which is the person gets to do the work, did they get it fairly? We have finished the important designs, and now we are in. So, Madam Speaker, the government is focused on realizing economic growth and development through several large construction projects. And we have not forgotten to invest in our communities. During the last fiscal year, the NWA expended $5.3 billion on road maintenance and repairs, and another $637 million was spent on flood mitigation works. Madam Speaker, I'm also very aware of the seriousness of flooding in some areas of the country, including the Marcus Garvey Drive area. Works will be done on mitigating the impact of stormwater flows in places such as I said before, Marcus Garvey Drive, Maxfield Avenue. Very important, Madam Speaker, the Falmouth dragline. It's a very unusual piece of civil works, but it's very important to protect dragline. So we will do some work on that. Maypen in Clarendon. That town is Madam Speaker, that is another major area where there is flooding. Some works will begin there. Port Maria in St. Mary. And Madam Speaker, it seems that there is a 2-year cycle for flooding in St. James. We will be doing some work on the, what's it called, Minister, the North Gully? Madam Speaker, I believe that with investments in these locations and more resilient infrastructure, we will be able, Madam Speaker, to safeguard our country against the shocks of natural disasters. Madam Speaker, I want to say a few words on Portmore, the 15th parish. Madam Speaker, the English colonial government divided up Jamaica into 3 parishes for purposes of political and municipal administration. Jamaica has had as many as 20 named parishes. I think it's 22 named parishes. We no longer have a St. Thomas in the Vale or a St. Dorothy. These parishes were all incorporated into the parish of St. Catherine by law in 1867, which defined our present 14 parishes. We struggle, obviously, to understand the rhyme and reason behind why the British divided the parishes as they did. But anyone who understands local governance and the management of emerging communities will recognize, Madam Speaker, the importance of matching political and social organizations to physical boundaries. Very, very quickly, you have persons who may be attached to an acreage of land. They have lived there for years. They have developed their own culture. They have put in their own road networks. They have their own way of schooling. And that area defines the group. So you try not to, in determining how you will administer the area, to separate the group. That has been the classic case of Africa, for example. When the colonial powers went to divide up Africa, they didn't pay attention to the group and social dynamics, and so they set up countries and divided peoples, right? And it's the same principle. So if you're going to set up a structure to administer an area, you want to ensure that the geographical area largely, if not substantially, contains the people who live there. So, Madam Speaker, there is no question that Portmore has evolved distinctly and discreetly from St. Catherine within a particular geographical boundary. No, I'm not, obviously, but I understand Portmore because I was born in St. Catherine, and I grew up with many people from Portmore. So there is a Portmore culture. There's a way of how they think, how they perceive themselves, their outlook, and it's very progressive. So Madam Speaker, the people in Portmore identify themselves with the geographical area. Speaker, the truth is they get most of their services in Portmore. And truth be told, Madam Speaker, they get more of their services in Kingston than they. Madam Speaker, even though there are some mumblings on that side, there has always been that recognition. Because that is why they gave Portmore municipal status. They've always recognized that. That's what George Lee said. That's why he felt he emerged as a leader, leading that view that we are a people emerging with our own culture, our own outlook, our own views. And what you decided to do was not to go the route of giving them parish status. You say you're not ready for that yet. Give you municipal status. But Portmore has evolved within that 10 or so years. There are how many years now of municipal? More than 10 years of municipal authority. So they have evolved. In fact, Madam Speaker.
Almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years. In fact, the municipal, just to be clear, the municipal administration of Portmore is such, Madam Speaker, that none of its services are managed in St. Catherine. In other words, all the municipal functions, meaning the city management functions, are done within Portmore. So you wonder, why would they continue to be a part of St. Catherine? In fact, Madam Speaker, my understanding is that none of the St. Catherine municipal the councillors sit in the Portmore municipality. But the reverse is that they all the Portmore councillors all sit in the St. Catherine municipality. Now what that says, no, that's not what it is about, because I have to address that point. Because, Madam Speaker, because what it is saying is that there is a kind of misrepresentation going on. Because the Portmore issues have nothing to do with the St. Catherine issues, really. So defining Portmore as a parish is as much for Portmore's benefit as it is for St. Catherine's benefit. There is no question, Madam Speaker, that Portmore has evolved to be able to add own affairs. Madam Speaker, I don't want to go too much into Madam Speaker, into the technical issues about why you would, give the ability to govern affairs. But there are certain principles. One of them, Madam Speaker, is the principle of subsidiarity. Very important principle as to how and why governments emerge. Madam Speaker, Portmore has evolved even further since its municipal state, and it became quite clear to me, which necessitated the lockdown of Portmore, that Portmore was geographically, socially, and economically constituted as its own distinct administrative unit and concern, quite unconnected to the issues and concerns of St. Catherine, the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation. Points are being made about the absence of important infrastructure, such as hospitals and a market or other such infrastructure. But, Madam Speaker, those are not fatal to Portmore becoming a parish. As announced earlier, the government will be undertaking 3 major road improvement projects in Portmore between this year and next year, including a new seamless access to Portmore from Mandela Highway. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has already unveiled plans to significantly improve the health centre that is there into, what is it called, a type 5? To a type 5 health centre, which is basically a hospital. The government is now actively reviewing lands in Portmore to construct a fire station and a market. And UDC is finalizing plans to construct a climate change park. Yes. We have, Madam Speaker, we have, thanks to former Prime Minister P.J. Pattison, we have the Emancipation Park. That's the theme of it. Madam Speaker, I was very pleased last year to open the Harmony Park in Montego Bay. And now, Madam Speaker, next year we will be opening the Portmore Climate Change. So, Madam Speaker, the government intends to develop Portmore into a smart tech city, serving the global services and knowledge services industry. Through the Port Authority and the Factories Corporation, we are making major investments in infrastructure to support these industries. We know that the people of Portmore share this vision of an economically thriving, urban, modern, creative, and socially progressive community. We are confident that the new parish status will unleash a sense of pride in the community, which will see the fulfillment of this vision. Madam Speaker, I quickly want to turn to the Port Authority. Madam Speaker, cargo transshipment grew by 20% this year in spite of the global logistics supply chain disruption. There was an expansion in volumes at the Kingston Container Terminal by several large shipping lines during the year. The capacity of the terminal was officially certified as 3.2 million TEUs. 2.8 million TEUs. I want to talk a little bit, Madam Speaker, about shipping, cruise shipping, and creating a multi-destination itinerary. Cruise shipping was the sector most badly affected by the pandemic. The complete cessation of vessel arrivals in April 2020 continued throughout the first half of this year. Through careful efforts, ships began to slowly return in September, growing steadily and expanding to all ports by the end of 2021. Notwithstanding the loss of revenues from cruise ships operations, the Port Authority continued to invest in upgrading the new facilities at all terminals with a view to improving the efficiency of operations and keeping with a deliberate strategy of differentiating each of the island's terminals. In Ocherius, our second major berth, we developed, Madam Speaker, the Renewal Pier to accommodate the increasing demand from the cruise ship lines. All industrial activities that have been moved from that port, Madam Speaker, and have been relocated to the western side of the port, and the eastern end has been transformed into a cruise-friendly location with a new reception building, new ground transportation handling facilities, and new amenities. A new promenade linking the Reynolds cruise facilities to the town of Ocherius was completed. In total, over $23 million was invested in the Reynolds Pier Transformation. Madam Speaker, Ocherius now boasts a second pier for the largest cruise vessels, a capability befitting the Caribbean destination with the most exciting attractions. In Falmouth, the Port Authority completed a unique artisan village at Hamden Wharf in collaboration with the Tourism Enhancement Fund. The newly constructed shopping facility will offer visitors the best available products from local artisans, craftsmen, and entertainers and culinary experts. The facility will be accessible directly from the cruise port and will be open to the general public as well. This facility has been handed over to the Tourism Enhancement Fund, which will be managing the operations of the facility. In Port Royal, which I call my baby, in Port Royal, the new terminal has been completed and is fully functional with attractive reception facilities, ground transportation handling facilities, and the Seawalk berthing system. In addition, Fort Charles has been substantially upgraded. A new promenade linking the terminal to the town has been constructed. A new sewage treatment plant to accommodate the terminal and the town has been commissioned, and a building to house a new museum and restaurant is under construction and is to be completed in the second quarter of this year. In collaboration with the NWC, the connections in the town to the new sewage facility are being implemented during this financial year. The NWC will also be budgeting, or be rather upgrading, the water supply in the town. The National Housing Trust and the Housing Agency of Jamaica will collaborate with the Port Authority and the Urban Development Corporation to renew the housing stock and associated infrastructure in the town, and to participate in the implementation of the new master plan. Madam Speaker, Port Royal has been badly hit by the pandemic. It was just starting to emerge. But, Madam Speaker, we are not in any way deterred by that. We are proceeding with the investments. And we still have ships coming. Madam Speaker, Port Royal is going to be the gem of ports. Madam Speaker, it has history, it has culture, it has location, and it has a certain natural charm about it. It is going to be a gem in our crown of ports. Madam Speaker, I already mentioned some of for the Port Antonio bypass. The other half of the plan is to develop the tourism potential of the town. I have given directions to the Port Authority to develop the East Harbour as a cruise port and to develop the land surrounding West and East Harbours, Titchfield Hill, Navy Island, Boundbrook, and the Folly Lands, utilizing a public-private partnership framework to construct appropriate hotels, resorts, residences, shopping, galleries, and restaurants in this area. Look at, we have Montego Bay. We have Montego Bay Port. Ships coming regularly. Big business for that economy. Then you come down now, you have Ocho Rios. Falmouth, which is the biggest port we have. Then you have Ocho Rios. Now you're going to have, well, we have Port Royal, but going around the island, you will now have East Harbour in Port Antonio. But, Madam Speaker, the idea in that is not to create mass tourism. For the East Harbour and the development, Antonio, what we want to create is what you call low intensity, high value tourism. Madam Speaker, no. Low intensity. Low intensity. High value.
That means all the oil friends
Madam Speaker.
from the GCC countries can come.
Madam Speaker. We see where yachts are fleeing certain places. Searching for homes. But Madam Speaker, the idea is to create the St. Barts of the Northern Caribbean. That's the idea. Madam Speaker, we are sowing the seeds for peace, opportunity, and prosperity. Oh, Madam Speaker, I have to make a decision as to there are just so many things, Madam Speaker, so many things. Madam Speaker, let me quickly speak about the special economic zones. So, for the same Port Authority, Madam Speaker, in respect of special economic zones, the development of 160,000 square feet of modern new facilities was completed at the Portmore Informatics Park, which is now fully tenanted. The modern new campus, constructed at a cost of US $21 million, establishes the new benchmark for the global outsourcing sector, which is seeking to move up the value chain to create new, higher value added jobs. So you see why we are saying, Madam Speaker, that we have strategically placed investments in Portmore that can match with the developing culture and ethos of Portmore. And therefore, Madam Speaker, in the next decade, Portmore is going to be probably the richest parish per capita. And by the way, we leave that for next year. We have some other plans. We leave that for next year. Can't give them everything now. Madam Speaker, a new 200,000 square foot logistic facility was completed in the Kingston Logistics Park, immediately adjacent to the Kingston Freeport Terminal. The facility meets and exceeds the established international standards for new logistic facilities and is now tenanted. In addition to a new security complex currently housing the Jamaica Customs Agency's CET operations and the operations of the U.S. Container Security Initiative, and this was constructed and also tenanted. Madam Speaker, the Port Authority bought a new Tender Boy ship for US $17 million fleet, renewing its fleet. And that, Madam Speaker, is very necessary for the safety of the harbour, a major investment. Madam Speaker, turning quickly to what is to come, the PAJ, having pioneered Jamaica's business process outsourcing industry in the Montego Bay Free Zone and having established the Portmore Informatics Park as a new benchmark for excellence in the sector, the PAJ will now seek to monetize some of its investments in this sector and reinvest the proceeds in catalyzing development in other economically attractive growth areas where the private sector has yet to become comfortable, Madam Speaker. This is consistent with the Port Authority's role as an agency of the government that catalyzes and stimulates development. Accordingly, the PAJ is at an advanced stage of preparing to bring some of its BPO assets to market in a way that will allow a wide cross-section of Jamaicans to participate as investors in growing the sector, in this growing sector of activity where Jamaica has demonstrated a distinct competitive advantage. The proceeds from the monetization will be reinvested in expanding near-port logistics assets immediately adjacent to the Kingston container terminals and in Caymanas. This is an important area of opportunity for Jamaica with the improving competitiveness of our terminals and the trends towards nearshore production and logistics operations in our hemisphere. Madam Speaker, just very quickly. So what this is, it's couched in technical language. But the Port Authority was a first mover and investor in the BPO sector. Its assets are now mature assets. The sector is now fairly mature. There are steady streams of income. Those assets can now be leveraged. They can now be placed on the stock market, for example, or divested in other ways. The resources that you receive from that, Madam Speaker, we will now use it to enter into another area where we can be pioneers. And when you look at Cayman's special economic zone, that has been going now since we were in government first in 2007. And even before that. And we haven't been able to do it. Long before that. And we haven't been able to do it. We had hopes here and hopes there and things come and projects, and it wasn't done. We're going to get it done this time, Madam Speaker. And we're going to make sure that we have the funds to do it. And so the Port Authority, in taking the funds out of those assets that are mature and steady earning, we leverage those funds, and then we're going to invest it back now into developing the Cayman's the Cayman Special Enterprise Zone. And that will give us now a new frontier, true new frontier in the logistics business. And I'm saying, Madam Speaker, I'm saying this because if there ever was a time, leader of opposition business, if there ever was a time to do it, it is now. What is happening globally is signaling, Madam Speaker, that there needs to be a kind of recalibration of world production. And they are going to be searching for markets. Not just, Madam Speaker, that's not about China. Madam Speaker, recently, you'd be surprised, someone called me from a company overseas asking, call me directly, Prime Minister, does Jamaica grow sunflower seeds? Do we grow sunflower seeds in Jamaica? But it is a big product. They can't get any now because the bulk of the production is between Russia and Ukraine. What is happening now is that many persons who are producing are saying, maybe we need to look in this region a little bit more. And so Jamaica needs to position itself to be able to take advantage of some of that recalibration of global production capacities. Madam Speaker, I have already outlined major plans for the eastern end of the island, but I'm happy to report that following the securing of funds on the private market, that the contract for the Morant Bay Urban Centre was signed yesterday with China Harbour. That project So, Madam Speaker, the Morant Bay project has been long in coming. It's a really tricky one, but we have secured private sector funding. We have signed the contract now with China Harbour, and so construction should begin shortly thereafter. So if you look at what is happening, you have this lovely road, lovely highway, which is connecting directly into this new urban centre, and that, Madam Speaker, is going to become the linchpin of economic development in that area. Madam Speaker, the DBJ continues to support. The Minister of Finance, I'm sure, will say some more on that. But I just want to give a quick update, very quick update on Bernard Lodge. Bernard Lodge, which was much maligned and criticized, that project is moving very well. The the lands, Madam Speaker, have gone through a very rigorous process of divestment, and so far, Madam Speaker, let me see. So far, Madam Speaker, they have divested 5 blocks, including 3 residential and 2 light industrial. And, Madam Speaker, some persons have actually started construction of housing in the area. So the program is off and running. The infrastructure is being done, that is the water and the roads. You're going to see emerging in Bernard Lodge the first planned smart city in Jamaica. So, Madam Speaker, I'm going to spend a little time now on the NHT. I couldn't come to Parliament and not say something about the NHT, Madam Speaker. The NHT has continued to focus on the increased deployment of its financial resources towards creating and financing housing solutions. A total of 92% of the Trust's total assets is now invested in housing. Can you imagine that? 92%. There was a time, Madam Speaker, when that wasn't the case. In order to generate additional cash to accelerate housing development, the NHT has been undertaking sales of mortgage receivables under the Joint Finance Mortgage Portfolio, the JFMP. The sale of mortgage receivables resulted in inflows of $11.5 billion in this financial year, following $26.2 billion in the previous financial year. The sale of the remaining portion of the JFMP is expected to be completed by the middle of the upcoming financial year. The NHT is projected to create a total of 7,324 new mortgages at a value of $30.27 billion by the end of March 2022. Housing expenditure for the current financial year is projected at $54 billion, up from $44 billion in the previous years. Madam Speaker, since 2016-2017, the NHT has steadily increased its housing expenditure from $4.1 billion in 2016-2017 to $50.4 billion in 2021-2022. The Trust is projected to achieve 3,259 housing completions for the 2021-22 financial year. Notably, the completion of projects has been adversely affected by the pandemic. Madam Speaker, let me spend a little time on housing starts. Madam Speaker, the table displayed outlines the government's plan for housing starts for the next 4 years relative to the commitment to build 70,000 houses. With current developments completed, under construction, in negotiations, budgeted, or in planning and designs, we have programmed 43,172 units of the 70,000 we are committed to build. Madam Speaker, even at that level, that would be the most houses ever built by any government. 43,000. We are certain of. We know that we can get that. We promised 70. We committed to 70. But where we are now, we are at 43,172. The NHT has 30,280, which we are sure of. The HAJ will give us 5,443. Greater Bernard Lodge, we will get 5,134. Our social housing program, Madam Speaker, we will get 2,315. So you will say basically, for this year it's 350, 5 per MP. We are going to increase in the next budget, and we will try and maintain a minimum of 500 social housing. So that will give us 2,315, which we are certain of. Right? So, Madam Speaker, when you total that, you end up with 43,172. It's a little bit more than that because the youth has identified some lands that they have in the Caymanas area, and they are actually in the planning stages now of doing a major development in that area, and they are looking at somewhere in the region of 1,000 units in Caymanas. Madam Speaker, the government's stated target of 70,000 new housing solutions by the end of 2025-2026 is not a pipe dream. There are concrete plans in place to achieve it. Madam Speaker, during the 2021-2022 year, projects at Perth 1A, Manchester, Seascape, and the Ruthven Towers in Kingston and St. Andrew, as well as Twickenham Glades in St. Catherine, were completed. Currently, the NHT is overseeing ongoing construction activities at 24 housing developments with a total of 11,394 housing solutions. Madam Speaker, I should state that the mandate of the NHT is not only to build house. We have been hearing the cry of the people for affordable housing.
Absolutely.
We have been sharpening our pencils to get the numbers down through creative designs and material use and creative financing options. But even at those price points, housing is just not affordable for a large segment of the Jamaican population. For barbers, mechanics, household helpers, taximen, cooks, gardeners, owning a home is almost an impossible dream for them. Though some of these persons may have been contributors to would have been entitled to a loan, there were very few housing solutions that their income could afford. In effect, this socio-economic demographic of persons have technically been financing higher income earning groups because they are contributing to the trust but not able to find a home. Other groups are able to find, so they use the funds. Madam Speaker, we have instructed that in housing development, it must focus on housing solutions that will come to the market between 8 million and 11 million. Someone purchasing a house today for $8 million would be paying, on average, $29,800 per month for mortgage, on average. This is still high, but reasonable. And it is an improvement as the average range previously was $11 to $15 million. At the lower end of that range, you will be paying $39,500,000 per month. So, sorry, $39,000. So, Madam Speaker, we recognize that even with this thrust, that we will get some persons in the lower income band, but not all of the lower income band. There still needs to be another effort. So, Madam Speaker, the only way to bring the housing cost lower is for the government to subsidize the unit. Currently, the government does not fully subsidize units, and we couldn't. We do some subsidies. Currently, the government fully subsidizes the social housing program that are targeted to indigent beneficiaries. The HAJ and the NHT does some subsidy through their development by absorbing planning and approval costs, land acquisition costs, and sometimes they even absorb some infrastructure costs. But, Madam Speaker, as I said before, the government could not, in a wholesale way, finance the subsidy of housing. But I think there is a way, Madam Speaker, that the government could make a further contribution to the cost of housing. And that, Madam Speaker, would come through the provision of land. Madam Speaker, I have instructed all the agencies that hold land on behalf of the government to identify and report to the Ministry of Housing all the lands that are considered suitable for housing and or marginal agricultural land. So the Sugar Company, the NLA, NWC, the Railway Corporation, all of these entities, we are now looking at their land banks, and we have appointed a special integrated committee to look at those lands, because what we don't want to do is take agricultural lands for housing. We don't want to do that anymore. So that committee will look at all the lands and determine whether or not the land is marginal. Some of the lands we have are classified as agricultural, but can't be used for agriculture because of saline intrusion. Some are titled as agriculture, but some of the land might be hillside, rocky, and so forth. So we're going to do a detailed inspection of the lands that are available. And when we come up with the determination of how much land there actually is, then we will come to the Parliament and we will have a debate about how we should treat with these lands and how we can use it to further bring down the cost of housing. Madam Speaker, in an effort to significantly increase the supply of new housing solutions, the NHD reviewed financing options that would substantially increase the amount of funding available for new housing constructions. The NHD developed a new financing and product delivery framework. The new framework is an arrangement with partner mortgage lending institutions that is regulated by the Bank of Jamaica. The fund that the full mortgage disbursed, the new...
Have some more.
And a tubs of rum, that's it. The new framework is an arrangement with partner mortgage lending institutions, mortgage disbursements to NHD. Madam Speaker, in the NHD's current business model, subsidies are applied to the NHD benefits by one or more of three general criteria: interest rate subsidies for special groups, interest rate subsidies based on income, price subsidies applied to the selling price of a house within a development. Income is not currently considered as an additional criterion for whether a subsidy can be applied to members within a special group or applicants to a particular development. Effective July 1, 2022, the Trust will revise its policy on subsidies in an effort to ensure that they are applied to those who are most in need. Income will be the sole determinant of whether a subsidy is applied. And this is, again, an important part of the NHT, that if it is giving a subsidy, the subsidy is fair. It is targeted to those who are in need and not giving people subsidy who don't need it, which contributes to inequality. Currently, the interest rate for each applicant is decided on the basis of income at the time of application and is applied for over the life of the loan. However, as the circumstances of mortgagors change, their new incomes may place them in a higher income band, lessening or increasing the need for an interest rate subsidy. Therefore, as of July 1, 2022, all loans will be subject to a periodic review in order to determine whether the level of subsidy given at the opening of the loan is still required or whether a greater or lesser subsidy is needed. And I think this is only fair, Madam Speaker, again, in trying to reduce the inequity in the society. Somebody accesses a 0% loan, they're progressing their job, increase their income and still pay 0%, and somebody else who has low income or no income can't get a loan. So that is only fair. Disability grant, Madam Speaker. Madam, grant was introduced in July 2017. Under the program, NHT mortgagors with disabilities who reside with and care for a family member with disabilities are eligible for a grant up to $150,000 to be used to retrofit or upgrade the dwelling to make it suitable to serve their needs. Effective July 1st, 2022, the NHT will double the disability grant and allocate up to $300,000 per individual, up to a maximum of 2 persons living with disabilities per household. Madam Speaker, the NHT will allow up to 3 contributors to apply for a 2-bedroom or larger unit to better improve affordability. That is a big move, Madam Speaker. This policy position ensures that family members can access housing. A key provision of this policy is that proof must be established that the applicants are bona fide family members and have demonstrable kinship ties, wives, husbands, children, siblings, etc., etc. Well,
Julian, how we behave yourself? How we behave yourself?
Madam Speaker, I want to spend a little time on our digital infrastructure. And I won't go through the whole thing, but Madam Speaker, I want to commend the work of we know, Madam Speaker, and the NWA, we now have an infrastructure, broadband infrastructure backbone that is now connecting our courts, our schools, and our public offices. Madam Speaker, we are ready for the needs. We now have a digital, not just a digital ID, but a digital signature in place. So you are able now to verify transactions. And that is a big step for us, a digital society. The Minister of Finance demonstrated how the new digital currency can be used. Madam Speaker, the critical thing here is that as we increase our digital footprint in, for example, a digital currency and other digital services, we have to provide the backbone, the broadband and other forms of internet connectivity to ensure that those services are reliable. The health information system. Madam Speaker, we are doing that, and it is moving along quite well. Jamaica will become a digital society. Madam Speaker, as we continue to sow seeds of peace, opportunity, and prosperity, we are acutely aware that we will be unable to achieve those goals without partnership. That is why I have prioritized the National Partnership Council and will be taking steps to work to build consensus around critical areas that affect our country. I have tasked Minister without mask Minister without portfolio, Floyd Green, with overseeing the partnership and directed him to take steps to assess and strengthen the engagement. Over the course of the government has had a series of consultations with members of the National Partnership Council, including representatives from the private sector, the opposition, trade unions, the clergy, youth leadership, women's advocacy, civil society, and academia. From these consultations, the strengths and weaknesses of our social partnership were ascertained, and a clear path to reformation has been paved. The Partnership Council convened last week, and we discussed our COVID-19 management strategy, the plans for face-to-face resumption in schools, the Russia-Ukraine war, and the rising energy prices. Madam Speaker, this government is taking an inclusive approach. Madam Speaker, allow me this opportunity to thank our partners for continuing to come to the table and engaging with the government. This year, we will implement a new structure for the partnership, enabling a more robust and inclusive approach and ensuring that the wider public is aware of its work. Additionally, we will be seeking to sign a new partnership agreement that will drive our strong recovery and sustainable growth with priorities to include education, digitization, and the environment. Madam Speaker, the government recognizes the importance, particularly in our form of democracy, of structured opportunities for both political parties to meet and discuss issues affecting the nation. To that end, we resumed the Vale Royal talks on February 27, 2022, around an agenda that included national security, constitutional reform, health, and Jamaica 60 commemorations. Madam Speaker, as the issue of constitutional reform and the shift in Jamaica's status as a constitutional monarchy, it was agreed that the approach must be collaborative and guided by expert advice. We will establish an advisory committee, including bipartisan representatives, to review the existing body of work and advise the government in accordance with the jurisprudence. The bills to effect the agreed constitutional amendments will be reviewed by a joint select committee of Parliament and ultimately, and most importantly, Madam Speaker, submitted to the Jamaican people for them to have their say through a referendum. Madam Speaker, Jamaica needs all hands on deck, and this government is committed to working in partnership with all stakeholders to herald a new era of peace, opportunity, and prosperity. Madam Speaker, as I close, we are commissioning a refresh of our currency, of our banknotes. We, Madam Speaker, are also creatures of emotion. The Cabinet wrestled with how we should position our heroes, founding fathers and leaders on our notes. There were some who shared the view of the leader of the opposition that, Mr. Siaga should get his own note, and Michael Manley should get his own note. There are some, Madam Speaker, who looked at it and said, well, I agree with that position, but then if you did it that way, who would get left off, who would not get on? But the Cabinet, having wrestled with it, decided that these decisions should not be for political benefit. Madam Speaker, these narrow political decisions should never overcome our bigger vision as to who we are as a people. Days which we would soon forget. Resurrecting the worst tribalism. Worst tribalism. Because I could stand here and draw all kinds of accusations about the 70s. I could, our history on those things are well documented, but Madam Speaker, I don't see myself in that light. My role, Madam Speaker, is to learn from the past and don't make those mistakes again. My role, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, particularly in the 60th year of our independence, is to unify Jamaica. Rise above the petty politics. Our child getting this new currency and seeing both Edward C. on the bill. That's a powerful image of unity. It is a change in the tribal mindset. So I was disappointed but not surprised. Madam Speaker, as we celebrate our 60th year of independence, we have a lot to be proud of. Jamaica is one of the is in the world, you knew that? In fact, Jamaica is the oldest black democracy in the world. Yes. So as we celebrate our 60th year as an independent state, we also celebrate with pride 78 years of being a democratic nation as marked by universal adult support. Jamaica continues to excel, Madam Speaker, and we are continuing to endeavor for even greater accomplishments. However, we are yet to scratch the surface of our tremendous potential as a country. We are a people richly blessed with strength, wisdom, courage, and creativity. I have a firm and abiding belief that our best days are ahead of us. Though the road may be rocky and the hill steep, I have unshakable faith in the goodness of my country and countrymen and the resilience of my people. As we move into the next phase of our journey as an independent nation, we are determined to sow the seeds of a bountiful harvest of peace, opportunity, and prosperity for every citizen. I am inspired every day by Jamaicans who commit their talent, strength, integrity, and wisdom to building our Jamaica. The Jamaica we all want. The Jamaica we all deserve. Recently, I met and was inspired by two of our new artists and a producer, one of whom is here with us this evening. I met a young man who goes by the name of Yaxter. He is known for his hit song, Ambition. I also met Black Hero, who is known for his hit song, It No Easy. And Tandra, who is a music producer and engineer by Big Yard Studios. Yaxter is promoting a positive influence of his Black Hero. Yaxter's top song, released about a year ago, has over 10 million views on YouTube. He says, why own a Ferrari with nowhere to park it? Why shop at Louis V when there is a Target? Farming over flossing. Investment over graphing. Inheritance for my seeds of peace, opportunity, and prosperity. This is a positive message that can inspire a nation and guide us in our personal affairs in navigating these difficult times of crises, uncertainties, inflation, and goods shortages. It speaks to a practical pro-growth, pro-social, wealth creation, self-reliance ethos that all our young people need to have in these difficult times. These are the messages that we must promote as we seek to define ourselves as a people, not messages about who is on which bill and dividing us. These are the messages we must send. We must say to our people, there is no success without sacrifice, no wealth without work. We must say to them, save and invest today for a better tomorrow. These are the messages that we must send. Madam Speaker, this government has an ambitious vision of peace, opportunity, and prosperity for Jamaica. And we are sowing the seeds today to achieve that vision for all Jamaicans. Our best days are ahead of us. In 1935, our founding father, Sir Alexander Bustamante, was clear in his commitment to the people of Jamaica. I leave you with his words. Be not afraid. Do your duty towards your countrymen, towards humanity. They will thank you, at least in silence. And at the right time, when the good Lord sees fit, he will bless you, even though you might not be aware of it. May God bless you all. God bless you.